Hi everyone, I'm Katina Dumitru, and I want to welcome you to a new conversation for founders: what to measure when everything feels like a priority. As the founder to leader coach, my work focuses on leadership for founders. I support them to make the transition to being an expert and an operator to actually leading and acting as a CEO in their business. But I know that leadership is often not their number one priority. What is always on top of their mind is growth. So I wanted to have today a very down-to-earth conversation about growth and metrics, and I have the perfect companion for this, and this is Zenovia Grama, who is a growth architect. Zenovia, thank you so much for joining me today, and please introduce yourself.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm super happy. I am a growth architect. I have 20 years experience in marketing. It sounds every time I'm saying very weird. The last 6 years, I've been obsessed about growth and growth systems that actually hold up under pressure. And I'm usually in teams where I scale apps, tech projects, and also e-com products. So I build funnels from inside the team and always with a goal in mind. And some metrics needs to be attached to it every time.
Wow, that's impressive, Zenovia. Thank you. So, what we want to do today together, Zenovia and me, we want to give scaling founders with either B2B products or B2C products more clarity on their growth metrics. We'll talk about how you need to change your thinking about metrics when you go from early stage to scaling, what you should stop measuring, and what you should keep an eye on. So if you have any questions at any points, drop them in the comments now or as we go. We'll pick them up throughout. And yeah, I'll dive right in with you, Zenobia. So let's start from the beginning. Let's say I'm a founder and I have some traction or some signals or even product market fit already, and I'm thinking about the next stage and my funnel and my metrics. What's changing right now for me?
So let's establish first what is not changing. It doesn't change the funnel, or it shouldn't be. It should stay the same. Okay, it can become more complex, but the funnel doesn't change. What it changes truly is your relationship to the funnel as a founder or as a co-founder that you are very involved into it. Because at early stage, usually the founders are very into it. They are the funnel. They know what acquisition is and how they can implement it. They know what onboarding means. They know how to sell the project or the product perfectly. Yeah, they know how to retain. They are very much involved in the funnel. They are testing and testing. They are very much into details and how they can fix the funnel for them to succeed, right? So the founders are very involved in what matters most. So issues, what they need to fix very, very fast. So this is like not a skill, it's a proximity and very much involvement into it. When they scale, that shifts a lot. There shouldn't be any proximity to it. So the funnel doesn't change, but their perspective and their relationship with the funnel for sure it will change because they don't have to have this proximity. They need to train to have other skills than they had before. And I think this is where you come for them to develop other skills because they don't need the things that they have done until now. When they start to scale, they need to be more leaders than they need to be founders. And I'm saying this because what I'm seeing, like a challenge for founders when they turn from early startup to exactly the scaling part, is they need to understand that the proximity disappears and it's very challenging. Like you are very much involved in the product. And at some point, you need to step back, to take a step back, see and have another approach. And it's sometimes very hard to do it. But they need to understand that they need to see the product or the service from an upper level. Everything changes as a perspective, and they are maybe the only ones they see the full picture. Everybody else from the team has parts of the pictures that they are building in their minds, right? So it changes a lot. And I think also the perspective on how they see the funnel changes because they need to focus on other stuff. So at the beginning, you focus more on acquisition because you need to test. You need to prove that the people are interested in your product or service. You need to bring people in at the first part of early startup. But when you scale, you don't have that from my point of view at all. When we talk about growth, we talk about activation and retention at scaling. You are focusing on another part of the funnel. And as a founder, you need to be there and actually analyze the metrics. You are more interested in the metrics and rather not in the funnel. You let people do their jobs and actually focus on the metrics, what you need to give them, and what are the goals that you are interested in. Okay. So it changes dramatically the posture you are as a founder when it becomes so dependent on the scaling. So I think that's where things like rather change, and they need to be more focused on different type of data that they don't usually focus when you are in the early startup phase. Um, so yeah, I think we can talk a lot about what means activation from different points of view. Like if you are a product, activation means like the first aha moment. When you are a service is the first experience, the first month when you have that client. What is the value that they see, what they need, how they feel when they talk with you, and how they are getting involved in the day-by-day relationship to the service you are offering. So I think there's a lot of perspective changing from their point of view. One, and second of all, the metrics that they need to focus. So if at the beginning you are focusing very much on the top of the funnel acquisition and cost of acquisition, when you are focusing on scaling, you actually are focusing on activation rate, on retention, on referrals, so different type of metrics and what they mean for them and what it means for that. So yeah,
Well, I
huge
can
change.
already see this will be an interesting conversation. Um, you mentioned the leadership shift, and of course, I cannot miss this. So I want to add the leadership layer to what you just described. The scaling stage brings obviously a big shift for the business, but it also brings a big pressure and also a huge opportunity for the founder to actually grow into a leader. And I love what Brian Chesky from Airbnb said. He has this phrase like eyes off, eyes on, hands off. And he describes this as his leadership style, but I think it applies very well to our conversation today about metrics. Because when you're scaling and you want to step back at least partially from day-to-day operations a bit to be able to build what's next, you want to take your hands off a bit, but for that to happen, you need to have your eyes on something else. And you need to have the clarity and the visibility over what's happening. And the main thing for me is like the basic, like have clarity on what stage you're in and what your main goal is. Like, where's my business at what do we need to achieve to get further? And then your top 2 to 3 priorities that will help you achieve that goal. And of course, then the metric that show you that progress is happening towards that goal and those priorities. And I think this is what actually allows you to step more into your leader shoes than
Yeah.
stay everywhere present in the business. And I've had a client of mine who came to me with this particular challenge in the coaching process. And he said, I want to focus more on leading the business. I want to stay a bit less in day-to-day operations. But to do this, I need to have more control. And of course, I started asking questions like, what does control actually mean and how could you achieve it, and so on. And what he realized almost immediately, it wasn't control that he needed. It was actually overview, first of all, and then also some strategy, like overview over what's happening in the business across the main KPIs like financials, operations, sales, and so on, and also some scenarios for himself, like what number should trigger a response from me, and where am I okay just leaving the team to do their stuff. And this is what he built. He built a dashboard for everything and with clear owners for each metric, and this intervention map for himself. And it actually allowed him to shift his role so much, to take distance from day to day and to have much more clarity on what he wanted to build. So I think this being present everywhere in the business is an illusion that you have control. What gives you this actual possibility of control, at least, is having the clarity and having the overview of the main numbers, not tons of them, but the main numbers that are actually relevant for the stage you're in.
I I love it. It's so much in what I believe. So, yes, I think one of the biggest problems is that you don't have total control, and that's okay. I think, especially when you're scaling, it's you're away. You're not closer to the actual work, to actual implementation, or you shouldn't be if you want to really scale. It's rather more about having a system, let's say, and a system you can trust and you can read it from the distance. And I think that's something that founders deal with very hard, because it's very hard once you were in the funnel, you were trying and you were working day by day into it. It's very hard to step away. One. Second of all, they fear that they don't have control because I think they don't trust the numbers. And you having new people in the team, it's normal. So it's also a lack of confidence. Like, this is something that you need to build. You need to trust the people that are coming, and actually you are giving your project to them and you are hoping that them to deliver correctly. So that's another part that actually it's kind of difficult, and that's why you need somebody that is super focused on growth, and they need to understand what they need to do. Because the moment you stop being the one doing and actually step away and you don't need to do anything in the funnel, then you become something else. You need to focus on some other part of the business that you maybe haven't had taken care of it until then. Like, you need to see what is the product or service next 6 months, what it will happen. You need to step up from the survival stage that you have been and actually focus on a dashboard and some metrics that show you what and how you are growing. So I think it's very, very difficult. And I love that hands off and eyes on. Really, really nice, because I think it really expresses what it means for a founder that needs to do, and it's quite challenging. So yeah, very nice. I will read a little bit more about it for sure.
Happy to share that. Now, what I liked when we first talked about this topic, that you also were very keen on sharing what you need to stop doing as a founder when you're scaling, because everybody's thinking like what to add to my approach, what tactics, what new things to do, because I'm in this new phase, and I really want to start with what should they stop doing when scaling.
Okay, there's a as you see, this is a subject that it's very important to me, because I think that's one of the problems that I'm experiencing when I'm starting doing growth for scale ups projects. The main thing that we shouldn't focus when we start scaling is top of the funnel. And that's something that founders don't want to listen. And I think it's normal, but hear me out. You cannot optimize the top of the funnel when the middle bleeds. So top of the funnel, it's acquisition. Middle of the funnel, it's actually activation. It's user experience, customer experience. And I will be super concrete. Let me give you an example, maybe to be very to the point. For example, you have an app, right? And when you are at the beginning and trying to actually at the early stage, you need to show installs and signups, right? This is like what you need to do and how much it costs, what is the cost of acquisition, what you need to do. You are very obsessed on going down the price of the cost of acquisition. So you aren't focused on anything else. When you're scaling, actually, you need to focus on retention. If you have an app, you are very much interested in day 7 user and what is he or she doing in the app. If you are a B2B company and you have a product or a service, you need to focus on day 30. Are they coming back? Are they still using? And what is using from the app of the service or the product? So the shift is so big, and it's very hard for you that you are used to focus just on bringing new customers, that you need to focus on the ones that you have and how you can retain them more. Do you have to work on the product or service, or do you want to focus more on the data and how you actually understand what they are doing and how you need to help them using more and more the product or the service? So what I like to explain to the founders is like you are like a leaky bucket. If you don't actually solve the bucket and make it a good bucket, you will lose a lot of the users or customers, you know. And that's for me growth. I'm super obsessed of focusing rather on the things, on the product-led growth. I mean, you are focusing more on what you actually offer for you to be sure that retention is high up. So that's one thing, not focusing on acquisition, but rather moving up the funnel. Now, when I'm talking about retention, I think that's another problem, like because they usually focus on acquisition and users that are new, they treat retention as a later problem. That's not for me now. We need to focus to being more users. We need to focus to being more business. And that's the second problem that I think I'm noticing because, okay, when you are at the early stage, you can afford to lose users. It's normal. You can replace them. You can go and bring them more and more. At scaling, if you already brought those users, you need to reduce the churn. And when I'm saying the churn is like if you churn compounds faster than acquisition can keep up usually when you're in scaling. And I will be honest, the funnel isn't a straight line. It's something between a loop, like something that it's, and also like retention brings new users and everything that you do. So you're playing every time with different metrics and with different, let's say, problems that you are dealt with. And from my point of view, retention feeds acquisition through referral, word of mouth, user experience, customer experience. When they have a complaint and they need to tell somebody, even that helps a lot with actually acquisition. So I think if this is broken, you cannot do growth correctly when you're scaling. So that's the second problem that I'm seeing. And the third, and I think this is where I am in love with what happens after. So usually when you are at the early stage, you are going on the gut. You know, I have this feeling, let's test this. I was thinking of this. And it's normal. You need to test because you don't know anything. Like you're at the base. But when you're scaling, everything it's about data. And sometimes data can be overwhelming, okay? And you still think like, okay, I should go with my gut. I'm feeling this and this and this, but never when I'm going in a team, never do you discuss about hypothesis. I am in love with hypothesis. So every time we are doing anything in growth, we are testing a hypothesis, right? I don't have a gut feeling. I have like, these are the metrics. This is what I know. If we want to do this, we need to test. Okay, which is the hypothesis from where I start and how we are going to work around it to see if we are right or wrong. And I think that's one of the biggest problem because if you don't test it correctly, you don't know if you're right or wrong. And maybe this can become a very loud like noise when you are actually mixing things and you are mistaken and make a lot of mess because you don't know how to approach that. And sometimes if you have a lot of data, it happens to don't know for you to where to look. So starting with one goal, one hypothesis, and a timeline for this can help actually confirm something that can help really, really scale and really help the business go upper. You need to stop when I'm talking too much because this is like a passion for me now.
No, I think this is so cool because everybody's talking about growth and go to market and things like this in the startup and the scale up world. And I think it's also necessary to bring some passion to the topic, not only the technical part and the details. Obviously, founders learn about this a lot. They need to do this. But I think it's nice to also bring real passion and experience to this. So yeah,
But
it's very nice.
let me ask you something because you talk with founders like every day, and I think growth is also a subject that you approach. And when you ask them about what growth means to them, what do they usually say? I mean, what is their approach on what growth should be for them?
Yeah. Well, founders speak about growth all the time, one way or the other. And since I always ask questions, I also ask like, how do you define it? And you'd be surprised that it's often headcount. So the
Really?
most
Okay.
common answer I get is not a revenue number or an activation rate or retention figure. It's I want to double my team, or I need for more people in sales, or we should be 20 by December, things like this. And it was surprising for me at the beginning as well, but I tried to figure out why this happens. And I think it can signal two things. One, it's overwhelm because as founders, they're doing like five people's jobs at once.
Yes.
And oftentimes they're covering areas where they're not particularly skilled in and confident in. So they see growth as team growth because that would mean more capacity for themselves. And that could actually bring growth to the company as well because they're the ones driving the growth in the company. So this makes sense, but it signals overwhelm, first of all. And the second thing that I think it signals is, and this one is interesting, is that team size can be like a leadership validation metric for them.
Okay.
I think many founders, even in the scaling phase, of course, they think about revenue numbers and things like this, but I noticed that they're more concerned about and worried about things like I've never led a team of 30, let's say, or I don't know how to manage a team that's double what we have right now. And team growth would actually validate them as leaders. And what I think is happening is that we're talking about two things at once and we're mixing them, right? And the metrics as well. So we're talking about growth and we're talking about leadership. While they support each other, we have different metrics and we should have different dashboards, so to say, for each. So growth metrics for the business, and this is obviously our focus today, and the leadership metrics for yourself as a founder who wants to grow as a leader. So keep them separately best.
Totally agree. And I think this connects with directly to the funnel I was referencing at the beginning. Like at first, they think that they were so involved in the funnel and in the daily business, and now they need to step and actually see the bigger picture. And it's normal for them to see also this as a headcount. But I think it's actually a wrong measuring, because this is an input, not an output. What I'm saying is because if an output don't it doesn't let you actually make the machine work, right? From me, the perspective it should be different. Like, okay, you need to grow the team because you need to reach this goal. And for me to reach this goal, I will need to have this and this, because I have problems in this part of the project, this part of the business, and I need to fix them. So, for example, you need to have like what will be the impact of the goal that you want to reach, which is the metric, which is the funnel perspective from growth and actually product point of view. So I think it's actually quite different. And it tells you something different because you need to see the output. So the output is that I need to reach this number until end of the year. So that's why I will need this type of person and this type of person that, yes, can help me because I don't have the skill necessary, and it's normal. But I think they need to focus more on the goal and metrics and what they need to search than actually just the numbers like 20 people or 10 people. Or the measurement, yes, it's totally different leadership than growth, totally.
Yes, I totally agree. Obviously, you should focus on outcomes, and focusing on this type of inputs and resources is more of an operator's mindset and a leader's mindset. So this is also thinking from within the system and not being able to step a bit outside and see what's actually happening right now and what do you actually want to achieve. So you mentioned the funnel and different metrics, and let's stay here because I think this is where the juice is. So I hope it gets even juicier. So let's go like stage by stage through the funnel, and if you could guide us through this and show some key metrics for each stage or tips for each stage, I think this would be very, very useful.
Okay. So in top of the funnel, let's be very clear, it's acquisition, right? This is the obsession of the first part of the funnel. And everybody knows and heard about cost of acquisition. It's normal. What I'm recommending is that cost of acquisitions should be on by channel as a metric. And it should be separated by, so it's not blended, it should be paid and organic. Now we have so many platforms that can help founders and actually growth team follow up and track everything that the customer does. So it's easy to have all the data. So I think it's very, very important to have a correct cost per acquisition per channel and on paid and organic, because it's very important for you to analyze this. And I will come back to this and how I'm connecting with different type of, let's say, metrics for the next part of the funnel. But I think something that we need to talk more about is that you don't have paid acquisition one channel. If it's just one channel, it's not enough no matter what you do. So usually you need to have a mix of channels, right? Where you have your research, let's say, for new customers. So according to these channels, you need to know what is the cost per acquisition per each channel and how it impacts. Because, and now I will talk about activation, that it's another part of the funnel, but when a person comes from acquisition, I've seen an ad, I came, I downloaded an app, or I was interested in a product or a service. Okay. And when I'm experiencing this, it comes activation. And this is where I think most founders don't realize how important it is to analyze the percentage of people that are reaching that aha moment, or the first value that I consider is my product or my service. So I think we need to connect more the cost of acquisition with the percentage of users that are actually reaching that aha moment. So everything is more complex than we usually do. And I think the growth team should be very much involved into it, and founders need just to understand the metrics, because it's a very complex part of the implementation, and it takes a lot of time. So the founder shouldn't be that much involved in the details, but I think it's very important for the founder to understand from acquisition what that customer did, where it went, how it actually converted. And so when we are talking about cost of acquisition, it's totally for the top of the funnel. Activation is in the middle of the funnel. And I think sometimes we celebrate so much the fact that you have that customer in, that we ignore totally the first aha moment, the first experience that needs to be really impressive for us to gather that. And I'm saying this because I was seeing report from Revenue Cat. I think they have millions of businesses right now. Like I remember like 6,000 companies are using revenue, right, from all over the world for e-commerce payment or app payment, right, as a platform. And they were announcing that there's such a noise in all the industries because AI happened, and everybody can create a product, a service, an app. And it's very hard to focus all your attention just on acquisition, because people are seeing so many stuff, and we are every day on our phones and we are seeing lots of ads. Okay, ad is very important, but when I'm arriving and experience your product, it needs to be very valuable to me. Otherwise, you're gonna lose me so fast, because my span of attention is so little right now as a customer. So everybody actually is playing with that time. So you need to pay a lot of attention. That's why I was saying like the leaky bucket cannot happen when you're scaling. And maybe I'm obsessed with it and I'm saying it too much, but that's the reality. You can pour a lot of money in paid, but if your product isn't ready, you're gonna lose that. Retention it needs to be the next part of it. So cost of acquisition, activation, and that aha moment that it needs to be there. And after that, we can talk a lot about retention and how we should see that. Retention can be a monthly recurring revenue that we are taking into consideration, can be monthly churn rate. So how many people I am losing every month, and that can be dreadful. And when you're scaling, that should be the focus a lot, because at the beginning, it's normal. Okay, everybody will invest a lot in first part of acquisition, right? But if you are losing them all, what you're gonna do? So maybe sometimes objectively you need to take a step back and say, okay, let's focus not on acquisition, but rather on the churn rate, how we can retain that. What is the problem? It's a experience problem, it's a product problem, and how we need to fix that. I think it's very hard when you're building something to focus a lot on the problems. You're not seeing just the good stuff, but you need to solve them. So you need to state it, to actually turn the data into problem solving and actually create hypotheses that you need to work upon. Um, And something else that it's connected to retention is that revenue needs to be always recurring, right? You need to have customers that you don't lose them every month. For example, you are a service and you are doing business and you are paid a fee, right? For B2B. When you have a problem with the customer experience, you have a problem with the service that you are offering, the recurring monthly rate, it's super important. That's the focus. That's the focus, that's the customer experience that you need to focus upon, especially when you are a founder. So I think there's a lot of changes because of that in how the founder needs to react in this context and what they need to follow and what is the dashboard. And I will say something that maybe it's not controversial, but can have different opinions. But I think that sometimes we need to take a look at specific metrics, not all the dashboards. So if you're seeing all the dashboard, okay, it's fine. You can take a look every month, every day, your choice. But I think you need to have sprints also as a founder. Like this month or these 3 months, I will focus on this. I want to solve this. And I will focus on this goal, 3 metrics, and what I need to do with my team to do that, right? And I think it's very important for them not to track everything at the same time. I can take a look, of course, I can see the numbers, but sometimes it's better to focus on one specific problem, one goal that you have, and 3, 4 metrics that are showing me that we are moving in the right direction or not. So yeah, for me, it's what I'm usually doing is establish 3, 4 metrics, one hypothesis, one time frame, and that's it. We know what to do. We're gonna focus on that. We're gonna follow it up after 5 days, 7 days, and so on. But we need to see, and I think it's also easy because you don't need the overhaul methodology and you don't need to do a lot of things. You need to be very precise. And I think when you're in scaling and everything, it's very, very, very fast happening. You need to move very fast. So that allows founders and growth teams to move very fast according to what they need to test. And you can start a test, you can do another on the different part of the funnel and so on. So you can test different aspects in the same time without touching one another. So yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I totally agree. I think scaling is such an overwhelming moment because as a founder, you have all these opportunities and all these things happening at once, and you want to do this and that. And it's very easy to get lost in this sea of goals and metrics and things like this. And I also work with many of my clients on such priorities, like 2 or 3 priorities for the next 90 days. And I know you do the same with growth as I do with leadership. And I think this is what actually answers to our topic today, like what to focus on when everything seems to be a priority. Like figure out what is actually the main goal in this period, in this month, in these 90 days, and start from there, like reverse engineer towards the metrics and not start with the metrics or the tools and go the other way around. So, yes.
Yeah, no, I was thinking like we were talking about metrics, but when a founder comes and talks with you, what they actually track as their own performance, because I'm sure it's differently, but what they actually look like. I mean, what they are interested in when they talk from their perspective of tracking performance and their own performance, when like what means for them actually performance.
Well, it's a good question. I also ask this question sometimes to the founders I talk to, and it's hard to answer for many of them. So I think all founders that we both know, they work with KPIs and benchmarks and things like this for the business, for their team, but they have none for themselves usually. And
Okay.
this starts because many of them don't have a clear role for themselves. They have like job descriptions for everybody or workflows, roles, but for themselves, they don't. And this was very effective, has been very effective in the early stages of the business because they needed to be everywhere all the time to fill in so many gaps. And this has actually worked and has brought them so far. But when you start scaling, you need to be more clear about your role and your focus as a founder and as a leader. And measuring your performance starts with this. How can you measure your performance if you don't have this clarity over how you actually contribute best and what's the biggest value that you can bring right now in this stage of the business? So if you don't have a clear answer to that, what happens is that many of them, they default to output and activity, the things that they tracked as operators until now, but that's not a job anymore, not the whole job at least. So what I do in my work with founders, I focus on three areas, and these are people, processes, and their leadership. So people is how they work with their team, how they set the team up, how they give feedback, and so on. Processes is about building the system that can scale without them being present all the time. Because if everything lives in their head and runs through them, then it's not a business that you're building, it's actually a dependency. And third is the leadership part, the thing that we've already talked about. How much do you show up as a leader versus the best expert on your team? And well, these things aren't that easy to track apparently, but um, I can give you some examples. If the founders that are today with us, like, they can think about this and maybe see what the numbers are telling them. Like, do you know how many decisions are made without you in a week? Like the decisions that your team made independently without needing your input. This number says so much about many things in the business, in the team, and about yourself. Like, how much time do you actually spend in the business versus on the business? It's a very frequent discussion, but it's actually a clear math here. Like, I know that there are many times when you need to pull your sleeves and put in the work and be in the day-to-day operations as a founder, and it's normal. But if you set a benchmark for yourself, for example, if you want even 10% of your week to be spent in a leadership mode, that means 4 hours per week in a 40-hour week. So, do you have the time to spend 4 hours thinking about vision or strategy or talking to your people, things like this? Many founders cannot find this time, at least the 4 hours. And this tells you again a lot about where you stand as a founder and what you need to do and where you need to go as a founder. And speaking of these metrics, I've actually built a scorecard. It's called From Founder to Leader. It's part of what I do, of my work. And the scorecard measures exactly where you stand across these three areas: people, processes, and leadership. It only takes about 3 minutes. It's very short, a couple of questions, and you can use it as a baseline to see where you are at and how you can prioritize what you need to prioritize in your leadership journey, because this can also be very overwhelming. You want to improve everything at once. With the scorecard, you can have clarity on what's most urgent or important right now to tackle. I'll drop the link in the comments if you want to take it.
Can I add something related? Like
Sure.
what you mentioned, there are a lot of jobs, like for a founder, just what we mentioned, like being just a leader, like creating processes, everything, like, and always being also part of the team and actually work something, not just see the bigger picture and establish the goals and things like that, but be super involved, get the things done. And I think it's quite difficult. And especially when you're scaling, there's a lot of things that are happening and are happening very fast. From my perspective, it's very important for them to have like I don't conversational skills, like to have how they need to work in teams and how they need to talk with people. And there are a mix of skills that they need to have from my point of view. And it's not related to growth, what I'm saying, but actually like my experience of 20 years of marketing and working with people. I think it's very hard and it's normal for them to request support. And at least imagine how many processes you need to create at the beginning. And nothing is like how you are working every day by day things with the team. Just that, and it's a job by itself, not talking about anything else. And when you're talking with about leadership and how they can focus, and they need to focus on the goal, where I'm seeing the product or the service next 6 months, because otherwise you don't know what to tell your team to do, you know? And sometimes when you're super involved in the day by day things, you don't see the bigger picture and you're losing things because you are always on the survival mode that you were on when you were like an early stage startup. And that's not the same when you are actually scaling. You should focus a lot on where you want to go, where you want to reach, and actually help the team actually drive the team exactly where you want. And it's a lot of things you need to do, a lot of things. And for me, with the founders I have worked until now, every time the best were that where they had a vision, they were sharing the vision and where, because you have, as a team, you have that drive. You already know where the product or the service needs to reach, and you're gonna fight for it. When you don't have that, and the founder doesn't tell you all the details, it's very hard for you to know, I am correct? Are we going where we should? I am doing anything that it keeps the product or service not going and not reaches where it should. And I think it's very, very important also that the leadership skills that they need to have for them to share let's say, the problems in a very specific matter with the team.
Mm. Yeah, thank you so much for adding to this. I think it's such an important phase, a scaling part from all these points of view. So I think all the support and the contribution from people like us and other people in the ecosystem is so important. So I also wanted to check on our time. We've got more than 10 minutes left. So I want to ask you in the audience directly if you have one doubt that is currently on your mind about growth or metrics, or you want to share something, please do it in the comments, and we'll try to approach it. Also, if you have something that you want to share about your approach or something that worked for you personally in your business, please let us know. We'd love to not to hear, but to read from you at least. So, well, since we're getting into our last 10 minutes here, I was thinking about a book when I heard you speaking earlier. You were talking so much about how you love hypothesis and how this approach to metrics should change with time for founders, starting from using their intuition in the early stages to actually building on data. And I'm currently rereading Think Again by Adam Grant. And I love this so much because it's exactly about taking a scientific approach to business and actually looking at the data and being able to think again if the data shows something else and being open to pivoting, changing your mind and so on, depending on what the data is telling you. So, Zenobia, if you have your own, I don't know, resources, something that you are reading or following or recommending for maybe the founders that are watching and want to go deeper on growth and funnels and metrics, everything that we've talked about.
Um, yeah, I can recommend some stuff actually that I'm using. I
Okay.
have some gods, let's say, that I'm following that aren't very into B2C, but B2B and actually SaaS tech, let's say, businesses, but I just love them. I think the god of growth on B2B, let's say, is Elena Verna. She is now the growth person in Lovable, like the product that everybody uses right now. And she is like amazing. I'm following for like the past 4 years. And I think if you are a founder and you want to focus on what growth means for you as a founder and get some details about how crazy growth can be, Elena, she is the person, and she's super fun. So she's super sarcastic. She she gives very funny memes, and I think you need to follow her if you want to focus more on growth. If you're a founder and try to understand how investments and growth and PMs and everything else, I think you should follow Lenny, his newsletter and podcast. What I can say is that every time that I'm listening to a podcast, I'm having like something to write down because I'm stopping and that's an interesting way. So because his invitees are very, very big and you can have a lot of learnings. And his newsletter, I think, has reached 1.2 million subscribers or something like that. It's amazing. So everybody that it's building something, it's following him and tries to get as much as information as possible. And somebody else that I'm following is Leah Terrin. It's also on LinkedIn. I'm following her a lot and see what she's doing. It's also on B2B growth, and she's amazing too. Now I'm realizing when I'm telling you like my three favorites, two are women. Maybe it says some things about what I'm doing, but I just realized now, so it doesn't count. But yeah, they both of them are amazing, and Lenny is like amazing. It's a god. He's a god on what means founders need to understand on how they can bring the startups having investment that are truly important to them. So there's a lot of lessons for founders, for anybody that is growing growth or doing tech in these crazy days that we are having right now. So yeah.
For sure, for sure. So maybe we should drop some links at the end of this with all the recommendation that you've made, that I made.
Sure.
Maybe people want to pick them up and follow these amazing people. So well, we are getting close to the end. And again, if anybody has any question, like this is the moment. If not, I want to leave you with what I can remember from everything that Zenobia has shared with me today. Like it's so important that you shift your whole perspective over metrics and over what you should look at when you start scaling and when you have product market fit. Also, don't just think of acquisition. It has been important in the first phase. Think also about activation and retention, and maybe this leaking
Okay.
leaking bucket metaphor will actually stay on people's minds. I use it also a lot, and I think it
Yeah.
says, yeah, it says so much. It's so valuable, and it applies perfectly to the metrics discussion. So yeah, I think really get clarity on the phase that you're in, the goal that you have, the priorities that you have, and put the right metrics on those and start from there. Also, let's celebrate when we have new users or new customers, but make sure that we offer them a very good experience. And this is available also for services and for everything that we do for ourselves as well in our work. So thank you everybody for joining us today, and thank you so much, Zenovia. I think this can be the start of a big conversation on growth and not only. And I hope we can continue this in the future.
Really happy to be here and to talk about growth. As when I was at the beginning of the webinar, I said that I'm obsessed with it. I'm really obsessed with it. So really happy that I had the time to speak about it, and thank you for the invitation. And let's talk more about growth and how we can handle it better.
Obsession is so valuable and so effective. So as you can see, we are truly obsessed with this, with scaling founders and really supporting them in growing both the business and themselves as leaders. So if something resonated with you, drop a comment below or reach out directly to either of us. Also, we will share all the links to the resources we mentioned in the comments. And yeah, thank you so much once again, and see you next time.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Bye.